Dragon Tales was a room full of farts. I hated the characters, I hated the show, I hated everything about it. It wasn't good at all! I know in previous shows I would go on about how this is that and that is this and how intricate the characters can be. Here, what you see is what you get. It sounds a bit harsh and the writers might have done a good job, but see, that's the thing, I'm not sure. Hello, my name is Spoyo, and this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. I've wanted to revisit the PBS Kids show, Dragon Tales. Back in July 2013, I went over my thoughts of the show, and it wasn't exactly positive. My criticism was aimed primarily at the characters, stories, and the general lameness of it all. Sentiments I do feel today, but was the harshness warranted? I mean, looking back at it now, I really hate this show. Like, goddamn, chill out, buddy. And don't get me wrong, like I said, many of the things I say in the video, I still feel. For example, I think it's a valid argument to say that these characters suck considering that they made me want to be a worse person as a kid. Perhaps that could use a little bit of clarification. Not that I wanted to go around spitting in people's drinks or anything, but you ever hear the song Barney's on Fire?
Oh boy! Barney's on fire. It's what we've always desired. We'll watch the flames get higher. Just don't try to put him out.
Yeah, that kind of worse person. The kind that would love to see an episode featuring some kind of violence against this disgustingly happy world of Technicolor dragons. But where exactly did this mentality come from? I must have been like 7 when the show first aired in 1999, and that's if I had even watched it during the premiere season. I must have been at least 8, 9, or even 10 when I would watch the show. A show I would come to discover was intended for 2 to 6-year-olds. But that's no excuse. If a show was written with intelligence and creativity, any age can enjoy it. I mean, look at what they did with My Little... This video isn't about that. It never was, and it was never supposed to be. So maybe I was a little unfair with Dragon Tales. And by a little, I mean I only watched 1 episode. Holy crap, what the hell was I thinking? But regardless, Dragon Tales was meant for children much younger than I had been when I originally watched it, and in that childish state of mind, I wrote it off as a worthless, idiotic attempt at teaching kids idiotic lessons. But can you blame me? I had just recently... Dragon Tales. Is it as bad as I made it out to be? Let's find out. I don't want to go into too much detail because what can I say that you either don't already know or I didn't mention in my original video? Ord is annoying because he just has this personality that you wish you could punch. Cassie is annoying because she's shy and sensitive and kind? You know, because that's legitimate.
I just love crayons. They're so scribbly. A wheezy phone.
Okay, I still stand behind my dislike of Wheezy. I mean, that voice is like using a cheese grater on my ears. I don't care if the character is well written. With a voice like that, who'd want to listen? Well, maybe kids, but that's beside the point. Or maybe that is the point. But my real concern is, was my criticism of Zack justified? Well, in my original video, I basically wrote him off as annoying. His character was a reserved, calm, timid-type character. Not necessarily shy, but not really open to new experiences.
I don't like new rides. I'm only going on rides I've been on before.
Like, take this episode for example where the group goes to an amusement park. The plot revolves around Zack being the wet towel of the group, unwilling to try new things. The episode covers all the cliches of this problem from trying new foods to trying new rides. And overall, it isn't terrible. I mean, don't get me wrong, I could still nitpick little oddities here and there. Why is he laughing? Is amusement park openings just something he enjoys? Is he that kind of special?
We did it! We're gonna be the first ones in the park today.
First ones in the park, immediately left behind by others. What was the point of that? Why do they wait to get off the ride, walk a bit, and then laugh about it? Legitimate no, they're nitpicks. But it's just stuff I noticed from an adult perspective. It's not insultingly stupid. In the end, the lessons are still there, and it's actually a pretty good one when all angles are taken into consideration.
Maybe I could try something new.
What do you think about all these new rides?
Well, I like some, and I didn't like some. Just like the new food. But I'm glad I tried.
If kids like the characters, they'll be more likely to try to mimic their behavior, and even if they find Zach to be annoying, well, it'd give them more reason to want to be different. They wouldn't want to be that weenie. This episode's got some merit to it. Another episode deals with school.
Max is scared of going to the new school. That's why he wants to practice here.
Well, that doesn't really help real-life kids considering they don't have a dragon school to go practice at. But I guess in the show's defense, using a dragon school might motivate kids who haven't started school yet to get excited about going to their real, boring, normal school.
I'll never ever breathe fire, because I'm not a dragon.
I have a little saying I use when something is too hard for me. When you're stuck, don't give up. Try something new. Try my special salsa. Deliciosa.
Wow, my mouth's on fire. On fire? I have an idea. That's not fire breath. I know. It's spicy hot salsa breath. We're pretending to breathe fire.
Okay, how is that supposed to be encouraging? It's like, oh, I have to do math, but I can't do math. I'll just say 4 plus 4 equals ABC.
What do we get to do next, Cassie? Next, it's flying time. But Emmy,
Did he suddenly go British?
but Emmy, I know we can't fly for real, but we can pretend.
But trying something new doesn't mean pretending to do something, because that's actually good advice to tell kids. When you're stuck on a problem, try doing it a different way. Look for something new. Maybe you'll find the solution that way. But when you're also showing them pretending to do what is being asked, that won't cut it in a real school. Multiplications is still multiplications. Reading is still reading. You can't just watch the Cat in the Hat movie when the school's asking you to read the Cat in the Hat book. Who would want to watch that piece of shit?
We put all the blocks away by color. Come on, Zachy. You've already cleaned it twice.
But I missed a spot.
Whoops! Everything is one color.
Now how can we put away the pearls, the gold, and the rubies by color? If you're stuck, don't give up. Try something new. Circle for pearls, rectangle for gold, triangle for rubies.
Okay, see, this is a case where it works. The objective is to put away the blocks, something they can't do anymore because they were basing it off the color. Max thinks of a different way of accomplishing this and does so through the shapes. The object that they were striving for at the beginning, put away the blocks, is achieved in the end through different means. With all the other moments, that wasn't the case. When trying to fly, they simply swung. When trying to breathe fire, they simply blew smoke. The objective was to fly and to breathe fire, both of which they didn't do. And that's the episode. Is it bad? Well, I mean, it's not terrible. I don't know if I'd call it good. Like the previous episode, I'm actually inclined to say that this episode contained a really good lesson. Time and again, kids are often faced with standardized ways of learning. As we get older, we learn that some of us are visual learners, some of us learn through doing, and others learn through listening. With an episode like this, a kid who is struggling will hopefully stay motivated by repeating the phrase in this episode, when stuck, don't give up, try something new. It's a good saying, but I still feel that this was clumsily executed. The 2 times we see this lesson in practice isn't to achieve an objective, but to pretend to achieve an objective. It wouldn't be fair to condemn this episode, but at the same time, it wouldn't be fair to praise it. It all depends on what your kid takes out of this. If the kid focuses on the last lesson, he can actually make something good out of this.
Look at me, Finn. I'm a nodling.
Hey, come on, have some respect for the nodlings. Or how about the episode Just Desserts?
How about if we all help you make another Wiggly Jiggly?
But we have to hurry. I have some of the things I need, but I also need some special ingredients.
This episode presents some ways for remembering stuff.
If I have to remember hot dogs, I think of a dog who's so hot, he's sitting in front of an air conditioner. Maybe the rhymes will help you remember pink and yellow seashells.
So, why don't you remember one thing, and I'll remember the other?
Does it work? Does it not work? I don't know, I'm not a child psychologist. The episode does repeat the same formula 3 times. Duo can't recall what they need, go back to Mungus, learn a new way to remember something, and go back and get the right items. But to the episode's defense, each scenario presents a different way for remembering something, and that seems like it would help kids. I mean, this is an educational show. It's trying to make a positive change in the world.
It's beautiful. Yeah, your mommy is gonna love it.
Wait, is Mungus supposed to be a child? But he looks like a grown man.
Happy birthday, Mommy! We all made this special dessert just for you.
Oh, my little baby.
This got weird.
And I thought my mommy was big.
You have the right to remain.
So was this episode bad? No. Alright, another episode is about a sleepover.
Hey, where's Cassie?
It's obvious. She's not coming.
How come?
Maybe she's scared.
And you gotta admit, you know how this episode's gonna end. Let me guess, they're gonna show the character being scared, bring her to the sleepover, and then she'll realize, sleepovers are fun! See, like right here, call your parents!
The front teeth, the back teeth, your teeth, my teeth.
Ew.
Why don't you do a half sleepover?
Wait, that's the ultimate solution? A half sleepover?
A half sleepover? Yeah.
A half sleepover, and they're treating it as if it was an accomplishment.
Hey, look! My badge is glowing! I'm glad I tried the half sleepover. Maybe next time I can do a whole sleepover.
I know I might be coming off as a bit harsh, but a half sleepover? I mean, I remember my first sleepover. It was scary and it was uncomfortable, and I can't say I enjoyed it because it was a legitimately scary experience. It wasn't with friends, it was with family, and it's just something I had to do. There was none of this half measures crap. Imagine if the amusement park episode just had Zach sitting in one of the rides and then getting off before the ride even started and saying, hey, maybe next time I'll actually do the whole thing. This was just a half step. This episode, despite good intentions, doesn't really work, at least from my point of view. I'm sure that some people will disagree with my ideology that sometimes the best way to get kids over a fear is to make them face it head on rather than being overprotective because it's just a sleepover, they'll be fine. But regardless, is it really a bad episode? No. Unlike Caillou, which could potentially make kids more bratty, the worst case in this episode could maybe make a kid a little too sheltered. And there are many different ways to argue how bad that could be. Maybe a half sleepover makes the minimal damage. Maybe it does a lot of damage. I don't know. This next episode is called Room for Change and deals with moving, but not moving homes.
I have to move to a whole other room in the house.
Really? Is this actually an issue? Is changing rooms really that scary of a thing?
But what if my new room isn't as nice as this one?
Well, what is your new room like?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet.
No, that's stupid. What child could relate? What kid hasn't seen every room of their house? I'm guessing this episode was geared towards rich kids who live in 20+ room mansions. I don't know.
What's this? Look, everybody! It's a door!
Really? You don't say. Overall, this episode, like the last one, makes no sense. What exactly is this supposed to teach kids? Like the previous episode, you could interpret it a certain way to see. Maybe it's supposed to be seen as a metaphor for changing houses. Then why not just make it about changing houses? All I can do is ask myself, is changing rooms actually that big an issue that it warrants a whole episode? So we've gone over the good stuff of Dragon Tales and touched a bit on the bad stuff. Don't want to go too much into detail considering we've already done that in the past. But there's one more thing to go over. The music. A song would play at the end of each episode as it would transition into the next 11-minute segment. I previously touched upon this subject in another one of my videos separate from the original Dragon Tales review. And let's just say I was a bit unfair there too. I only used one song as an example and it was a pretty bad song. I still stand by the claim, but it's not reflective of the other songs. These other songs seem like kids would enjoy them, and keeping in line with the nature of the show, try to teach kids something in the process.
When you wanna make a new friend, give a great big smile and say hi, hello, my name is Zach.
So I guess you can say I messed up there too. Overall, the show Dragon Tales was not what I made it out to seem. Don't get me wrong, I still hold a grudge against the show because I did dislike it as a kid, but at the same time, watching it as an adult, I can see that if a kid does enjoy these, there is something to get out of it. From what I saw, the lessons were a hit or miss, but mostly hit, I guess, and perhaps maybe it's my adult perspective that's causing me to see the positives in the show, in the sense that I could see what the adults were going for, and maybe kids won't get that. Maybe kids will lose interest, and the show really is bad. I know my cousin says she dislikes it, but then again she is 10, so she's well out of the age range. I definitely still dislike many of the characters and their voices and the dialogue here and there. It's hard to say if the show is 100% bad or if it's 100% good, and you know, should be okay, because I mean nothing is 100% good or bad. But I can't decide which side it leads on to. Does it lean to being a good show? Is it a bad show? I guess it's a good show. I can definitely say with 100% certainty, it's not what I made it out to seem originally. It's not a terrible, terrible show that's a product of its time. Dragon Tales wasn't trying to sell toys or merchandise. Sure, that stuff did exist, but it wasn't like each episode was crammed with toyetic features. There's no moment where Ord gets a motorcycle or we meet some random characters who are never mentioned again for the sake of creating a new toy. Dragon Tales was an educational show that may or may not have worked. It was nominated for awards, so there's that. And it's such a shame I had to get to this point. When I made the original video, it didn't take much to realize that I was constantly comparing it to something else. Dragon Tales was the second review I ever made, but it wasn't about giving any of you an analysis. It was to cover my own shame. I imagined things that weren't there. I cast a shadow on Dragon Tales, and the only reason was to feel better about myself. I wanted to feel normal again, and I did it by making Dragon Tales look bad. My intention was to see that if I could sell the world that Dragon Tales was this pathetic waste, then I could make MLP look more manly in comparison and not be who I felt I was. And that's not what I should have done. It wasn't Dragon Tales that I burned that day. It was something I had to admit out loud. It's hard to do, but I had to do it. It's time I looked into the mirror, took a long, hard look, find out who I really am. Where does my bias lie?